Hi, it's me, Vicki Marie. How is everybody? I hope you're all well on this Sunday evening. I'm well, just tired because today I've done quite a lot of videos that I've got sort of lined up because I know I've got a busy couple of days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with classes, so I've got some videos ready. And then I started doing some cleaning, which I call it, it's like, you know how you have spring cleaning? Well, in Spain we have autumn cleaning because it's so hot in the summer you don't do much cleaning. So by the time it comes to autumn, you know, it's cooled down a little bit, though it's still 28 degrees today. It's still too hot. You know, I'm actually longing for a bit of cold weather, but believe me, I'll be whinging when it's cold. I know that. But yeah, so I've been doing some autumn cleaning. And so I'm a little bit tired. But apart from that, I'm fine. Everything's fine. So hope you're all okay. As always, to start, like the message at the bottom of the screen, thank you everyone for liking, subscribing, being members, buying me a Ko-fi. That is so much appreciated, or sending me a super. People have sent me super chats, super thanks, PayPal'd me, and especially the members. The membership is very important because it's a stable sort of income, if you like, for me. You know, because a lot of my videos don't get monetized, and the more I can, you know, build my channel, then I can spend more time on it because I like spending time on it. But I am a bit, you know, I do a lot at the weekend normally because that's when I don't have classes. But anyway, so thank you, and thank you to anyone who's bought my Spanish books or my Confessions of a Spanish Teacher book. I haven't still haven't done the next chapter for you members. I still haven't written down the next chapter of Please Subscribe to Murder. Everything's been a bit crazy with Nicola Bulley because it's coming up to her birthday. So I've got lots of things organised to do for that. So that's sort of taking precedence a little bit, and cleaning. But anyway, thank you anyone who supports my channel in any way. And hello to all of you that are just at home watching. Not everybody likes to join in the chat. Sometimes people are too shy to join in the chat. That's fine. So now I'm going to say hello to all you that aren't too shy to join in the chat. And there's always a few of you on there, which is brilliant. Right, go up to the beginning. Chumba was first. Chumba was first. Hi, Chumba. I hope you've had a better day today. Hi, Rose Petal. Hi, David. Hi, Desi. Just go down a bit, make sure we're all chatting between yourselves. Oh, Chumba slept a lot today. I've had a little power nap earlier. In between cleaning. Desi's been busy with the family. Oh, is it raining there? Oh, rain. I remember rain. Hi, Saskia. How are you today? Hope you've had a good day today. Robert Lindsay Chumba was Wolfie. What makes you ask that? He's not died, has he? I follow him on Twitter, I think. Oh, a lot of rain, Desi, where you are as well. I thought you were supposed to be getting a heat wave over in the UK. Gosh, you are chatting. A lot of chatting. Hi, Tina. I was a little bit late, a couple of minutes late. I was. Usual chaos, just as the live's about to start. The dog starts barking. He's beeping outside. Always at 8 o'clock. You can rely on it. Hi, Jackie. Chatteratai. I like that. I hate cleaning in general. Yeah, dust doesn't get any thicker. Oh, you won't believe the dust you get in Spain, honestly. And I was saying to someone on one of the messages, I love, there's a Paul Grady said, life is too short to clean the oven. And my oven, needs cleaning desperately. But every time I think about cleaning it, I think about that Paul O'Grady quote, life is too short to clean the oven. I don't mind cleaning. Once I get into it, normally I quite enjoy it and I like the way, it feels after. But not the oven, not the oven. I'm putting it off. I'm actually considering buying a new oven. Hi, Princess. Okay. Oh, I see, Chumba. That's where Wolfie's come from. That's your David. Wolfie. For his brilliant mask that he had on, yeah. Yeah, I haven't got anything on tonight, no mask, no nothing. Now, I've been doing a little bit of a change around as well. Oh, Tina, are you in Prestwich? That's where my sister used to live, in Simister. God, what's the name of that road? That great big long road that goes up into Simister. Is it Haywood Road? Maybe Haywood Road. Anyway, she doesn't live there now, but I do know Prestwich quite well. There's a spray for the oven. Yeah, but I've still got to spray it, and then I've still got to clean it, though, haven't I? I think I'm going to have to get David over to clean the oven, I think. Hi, Heather. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about Rodney Alcala. Now, had you heard of him? Yeah, Haywood Road. My sister lived there many, many years. In fact, she probably only left there about 5 or 6 years ago. And I used to go there when I was a child, because I used to have to babysit. I didn't live there. I lived in Charlton in the south of Manchester. But I did used to have to go. So, Desi, you've never heard of Rodney Alcala. Well, probably a good thing, but Rodney Alcala, let's have a look at him. Let's have a look at him. Now, when he was young, he was, well, people say he was handsome. To me, I don't find him handsome, to be honest. He's a strange looking guy, or even when he was young. Now, there's a lot of different pictures here. But this is him. Well, this is him when he got arrested. Well, he was arrested many, many times. This was him as he got older. This was him probably at the peak of his murdering people. He was a bit sort of hippie-ish, wasn't he? I think his mother was Mexican. So he had that sort of Hispanic look, the long curly hair. To me, he's not handsome. He is creepy looking in my eyes. And even when he was young, he was creepy looking. But especially creepy looking here as he got older. But he's a particularly, and I know we always say this, and all serial killers are horrible just for the fact that what they do. But this guy, he was particularly horrible, and I'll explain that as we go along. We don't know the extent of his murders. We just don't know. It's thought that it may have killed well over 100 people. But he was only convicted, I think, of 8 in total, 5 initially. And then I think he confessed to either another 2 or another 3, but we'll go through it as we go along. But it's thought that he may well have killed over 100 people. He is an embodiment of everything that was wrong with the prison sort of service then, in the times in the 70s when he was active, because that was the time. It was like almost a golden era of serial killers, wasn't it? There was loads of serial killers for a start, because there wasn't DNA testing and things like that, so it took much longer to catch people. Also, people could freely go from state to state, and states in America then would not necessarily liaise with each other. Now, he was prolific in Hollywood, Los Angeles. That was where he lived for a long time. That's where he started off his killing spree. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about him, and we won't be concentrating much on him. You just need to know about him, obviously. So he was born in 1943 on August the 23rd. So he is a Leo. He was an American serial killer, obviously, but he was sentenced to death for 5 murders that he committed between 1977 and 1979. But he started long before that. Those murders, actually, they should not have happened, because Rodney Alcala, he'd already been to prison twice and been released for very serious offences. So he's one of those like total disasters of the time, as far as the judicial service was. They were the 5 victims that he had, the 8 victims that he had after he'd already been on the police radar for serious offences. They shouldn't have happened. He was let out to kill and destroy so many people's lives, and not only their lives, their family lives. So we're going to look a little bit at the victims as well, of course, and one victim in particular. Anyway, so he was sentenced to death in California for those 5 murders, and then afterwards he pled guilty later on, because I think it was DNA that then connected him later on to 2 murders in New York State in 1971 and 1977, and he was given an additional sentence of 25 years to life, which really seems sort of ridiculous, doesn't it? If he'd been sentenced to death and then he got sentenced of 25 years to life for the other 2, but I suppose different states, they impose different sentences. But the true amount of his victims is unknown, and authorities believe it could be as high as 130. It could even be more, and I'll explain at the end how they know that, or why they think that. He was a particularly nasty killer. Obviously all killers are bad, but this guy, he tortured his victims. He played with them. He took them to the brink of DEATH, and then he brought them back so that he could do it again. He was a true sadist, and he's the worst kind, because he seemed. I mean, the thing is, he wasn't. Apparently, he had no problems while he was growing up. He didn't follow those normal things that serial killers do, where he tortured animals, or he wet the bed, or he bullied people, or any of that, So he didn't do any of that. He wasn't, there was no signs. There were no signs in his childhood, in his youth, that he was going to be a serial killer. Not often they're cruel to animals, or people look back and say, oh, I remember when he did this, or I remember when he did that. No, not this guy. This guy was, to all intents and purposes, a very normal child. Also, he was successful with women. And some of the videos that I've watched with police talking about him, that, because quite often he's like a Ted Bundy type. He could have relationships. It wasn't like he was, couldn't find women who liked him. But women did like him. He had relationships. It was for the pure pleasure of actually killing somebody. Really, that's basically why he did it. He had no problem in his personal life. He never married, and he never had children, thankfully, to be honest. Okay, so when did it all start? Now, this is it. So he should have been caught very, very early on because he was born in San Antonio, Texas. And yeah, his just trying to work out which one of his parents was Mexican anyway. They've both got Hispanic names. And so I'm not sure if it was his father or his mother who's Mexican, but it doesn't matter really. But he was born in San Antonio, Texas, so he is American. However, it must have been his father because his father decided to move to Mexico in 1951, and then he abandoned the family 3 years later. So that's really the only upset that he had in his childhood. So when he was 11 in 1954, his mother took him back to Los Angeles. So she was obviously homesick for Los Angeles. So that was nice of his dad to do that, wasn't it? Make his mum move to Mexico and then leave her 3 years later. Anyway, apparently he's got very high IQ. He did well. He was a very academically gifted student. He was popular amongst his peers. He had many, many girlfriends. And he attended private schools. He was, involved in track and cross. There were no signs that he was going to become this kind of person. He had, to all intents and purposes, a normal childhood and young life. Anyway, at the age of 17 in 1961, he joined the army. Yeehaw! And he became a paratrooper, and then he served as a clerk. Now, his commanding officer did notice or did remark or note, somewhere in his record, that he said he was manipulative, vindictive, and insubordinate. So perhaps this is the first time that he's narcissistic, because he has been diagnosed as a narcissist. He must be a narcissist for what he did. And he was disciplined on several occasions for assaulting young women. Now, in 1964, apparently he had some sort of nervous breakdown. And he went AWOL. And he went to his mother. Now, I don't know what to think about his mother, because every time he got into any problems, he always went to his mother's house. Now, I would assume nothing, I can't find anything about his mother, whether she knew, whether, maybe she, what you're going to do when your son turns up at your door, you're going to let him in, but I'm sure he didn't tell her the full story. Anyway, he had an IQ of 135, which is really quite high. But he was then diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. And he was discharged from the army on medical grounds. Now, various times he's had psychiatric evaluations, and it's been said that he's got narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, malignant narcissism with psychopathy, and sexual sadism comorbidities, whatever they are. Comorbidities. Anyway, after he left the army, he graduated from the UCLA School of Fine Arts. And then, this is an interesting aside. He studied film at New York University. And you know who was his mentor then? Was Roman Polanski. Now, do you know the director, Roman Polanski, and the story about him? Because he eventually became a P, didn't he? Or he was known as a P. So, do you know who Roman Polanski is? Anyway, so I thought that was an interesting aside. who knows what they talked about? Goodness me, I wouldn't be surprised any of it, to be honest. Yeah, another creep, Chumba. Okay, so that's him so far. So he's graduated from the University of New York with this fine arts degree. And that was it. He was so, set off on his life, and he always described himself as a photographer. This was really, he never really worked. I mean, I presumably either his mum or his dad sent money or whatever. I don't know. I mean, he's an adult by now, but he never really worked in any sort of job that you would call like a normal job. But he always described himself as a photographer. So how he supported himself, I'm not really sure. Anyway, so the first sort of thing that we really know about as a crime that he committed, and it was an attempted murder, really. In 1968, on September 25th, a motorist witnessed him lure a little girl into his car or into his apartment, and he was a neighbor, and this neighbor witnessed this passing motorist witnessed him luring this young girl. This little girl was called Tally Shapiro. She was 8 years old. And as this motorist went by, thank God, he saw her go into Alcala's apartment. So she apparently was approached by him on her way to school when he pulled up beside her in his car and asked if she needed a ride. But she refused at first, but he told her that he knew her parents. And so she got in the car, unfortunately. But anyway, he took her to his apartment where he told her he wanted to show her a picture. And then luckily, the police arrived because this passing motorist had rang the police. Thank God. Her God was definitely looking after her that day. And the police arrived and they found Shapiro alive, but not far away from death. And she had been RAPD, and she had been beaten with a steel bar. It was a horrible scene that they found as they walked into the house. Rodney, had fled. I think, it doesn't say it here from what I'm looking at here, but I think from what I can remember is he opened the door and he was undressed or just in his underwear, and he said, could he just get dressed? And then by the time they realised he wasn't coming back to open the door, he'd escaped out the back. Anyway, so poor little Tally, she was in a coma for 32 days and spent months in recovery, but she did recover. Thank God. So what did he do? He fled, and to escape, because he knew there'd be a warrant out for his arrest. So he left California and he went to New Hampshire, and he changed his name to John Berger. And he, believe it or not, he got a counselling job at a New Hampshire arts camp for children using a slightly different alias, because first of all he started off as John Berger, spelt Berger, and then he changed his name to John Berger as in the hamburger, and he started to work for the Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. I mean, I would hope that this sort of thing couldn't happen now, because would there be more checks would need to be made now. Anyway, he worked in an office there with another serial killer, Richard Cottingham, which he's a lesser known serial killer, but they claim that they were not aware of each other and there is no evidence that they were familiar with each other. They both were arrested eventually. But anyway, so meanwhile, the FBI is looking for Alcala, and they added him to the list of 10 most wanted fugitives in 1971. And then a few months later, 2 children who were attending one of his arts camps, one of the arts camps where he was working, went to the post office and saw his FBI poster on the wall. And so they contacted the police. So he was arrested and he was extradited to California. Now, by then, little Tally, the 8-year-old girl, her parents had repatriated to Mexico, and they didn't want to come back for the trial or anything like that. They refused to allow her to testify at the trial, and she was too young to make that decision herself. So finally, the authorities were reluctant to charge him with RAPE, an attempted MURDR, because they didn't have the witness. They needed Tally to be there so they didn't want to try him because he may have got off with it, and there could be a time later on, that maybe Tally would testify against him. So they just they convicted him of child molestation. That was the only thing that they could prove, if you like. He was sentenced to 3 years. 3 years. Goodness me. And he was paroled in 1974 after 17 months. So do you see what I'm saying? This is one, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? It's terrible. Yeah. Okay. So what else do I want to tell you about him? All right. So there you go. So he's out. He's been paroled after 17 months. Within 2 months after being released, he was rearrested for assaulting a 13-year-old girl, who apparently was identified in court records as Julie J. And she accepted a ride to school from this man, this monster. Later on, one of his victims, their family, they only ever refer to him as Monster. They will not speak his name. So instead of his name, they call him Monster. Maybe I should say that as well, because he really is a monster. So Monster was again paroled in 1976 after serving only 2 years. So he's done this horrible thing to Tally. He's now done it again, less than 2 months after his release, assaulting a 13-year-old girl. Then in 1976, he was released again. He was paroled again. So, that was the times then. They were always paroling people. Right, just have to wait 1 sec. Sorry, I've just got to send a quick message. Sorry. Oh, gosh, wrong phone. Anyway, don't matter. I'll do it in a minute. Okay, so after he was released again in 1977, his parole officer took the unusual step of letting him travel to New York City. And New York City officers now believe that a week after he returned to Manhattan, which is where he'd been before, he killed a 23-year-old woman called Ellen Jane Hover, who was the daughter of a nightclub owner and goddaughter of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. So she was last seen at her New York apartment that day, on July the 15th, and her notebook said that she had an appointment later that day to meet with John Berger, and that was his alias. So it seems like he'd gone back to using his alias again. Sorry, I just need to send this message. Sorry. So, yeah. So, of course, he's a photographer. This is how he secured a lot of his victims, because he would go around with a camera and, you know, obviously in Los Angeles or these sort of places, he would go to these sort of places where he would hope to, you know, go up to people and say he was a photographer and, you know, were he interested in doing a photo shoot and all this sort of thing. But anyway. So, what happened then? So apparently the FBI were tipped off about Alcala, and he was questioned about the death of Hover, which they wouldn't call her by her second name, Ellen. He was questioned about the death of Ellen, but there was no body. They hadn't, in fact, she disappeared. I say he was questions about the death. He was questions about the disappearance of Hover. Now, her remains were not found until much later. So, but anyway, so he was still free, basically. So this was 1977. In 1978, he worked briefly at the Los Angeles Times as a typesetter. He was interviewed because at the same time, because there was lots of serial killers at the time, wasn't there? And the Hillside Stranglers, they were operating at the time, or the Hillside Strangler, because they didn't know at that time it was actually two people. That's a whole nother serial killer Sunday to talk about. And he was interviewed about that, but he was ruled out, and of course he wasn't a strangler. But he was arrested for he got a brief sentence for marijuana possession. So by now he's been in prison quite a few times. So he convinced hundreds of young women and men that he was a professional fashion photographer. He took pictures of them for his portfolio, and he shared the photos with workmates. Yeah, and one of his co-workers said he thought it was strange because some of the photos the models were naked. Anyway, so some people have spoke up now and said that they posed for him, and I'll explain that why at the end of it. I'll show you how the police know all this. Most of the photos that were in his portfolio are explicit in an sex way, and most of the subjects remain unidentified. So the police do feel that some of these people on the photos that they found, which I'm going to talk to you about later, may be cold case victims. Anyway, they also claim that during this period, he also REPD'd a 15-year-old girl, Monique Hoyt, in Riverside County, who was posing for photos when he knocked her unconscious. Okay, so now we come to the dating game appearance. So right in the middle of this, where he's already murdered people and RAPD'd people, he applied to go on the dating game. Now, the dating game was a show in America, a bit like Blind Date. You know, we had Blind Date with Cilla Black. And he was introduced on there as a successful photographer. And we're going to look at that. I just need to... I just need to... Okay, sorry, I'm back. Sorry, I had to just go off and do something. Okay, so we're going to have a look at this dating game show. Now, I've got to be careful with it because I may get done for the old copyright. But let's see. I'm wrong. So I might have to keep stopping and starting it. Right. Okay, so this is him on the dating game. I'm just going to go to where he actually comes on. So I think this looks quite creepy, actually. So you've got the three bachelors on their chairs. He's the first one. He's number one, contestant number one.
Good luck, gentlemen.
God, how creepy is he? So that's how creepy. So this is right in the middle of his killing spree. Do you know? Just unbelievable that he would go on television, national television. I mean, this is a popular show all over America. That, I mean, how, you know, he might have had an IQ of 135, but that wasn't really very clever, was it, to be honest, to go on that show? No, but that's the narcissist in him. You know, he wanted to go on the show. He loved it. He loved the attention. He even used his real name. Creepy.
And it's time to meet our young lady for game number one, and here she is. Here is a young lady with a wealth of experience. She once earned a living massaging feet, but she quit when her boss suggested that she work her way up. Then she taught school in Phoenix.
I mean, it's just awful, this program, to be honest. And you can now this is the poor woman who didn't realise she was having to choose between three men, one of which was already a serial killer. She's a school teacher, I think, or something. But it's a very odd. It's very odd, the thing she says, to be honest.
Arizona. Now she's here to educate our three bachelors in the art of amour. Welcome, if you will, sensational Cheryl Bradshaw. Hello, Cheryl.
Sorry, I'll just fast forward it a bit to just where she's talking. So she has to ask them questions, and then, you know, judging by the answers, she has to pick one of them to go on a date with. Let me just make sure you can see this. Okay, I think you can. Yeah. Oi, Riley. Right.
Go to Cheryl, please. We're going to have a great time together, Cheryl. Okay. And here we go. Nighttime.
Why do you
Oh my God, he's so creepy. Oh my God, this could give you nightmares.
say that?
Because that's the only time there is.
The only time? What's wrong with morning, afternoon?
Well, they're okay, but nighttime's when it really gets good.
What?
Take it.
Oh, come on, over here.
She thinks that's funny. I mean, I'll tell you what, how he ever got picked, I don't know. I mean, just straight away, that gives me the creeps. Mind you, I don't know what the others were, probably worse.
Oh, honey, we ought to go out and boogie.
Really? Welcome back to the dating game.
So, anyway, she picks him. She says, I like bananas, so I'm going to pick number one.
Cheryl, we have reached the moment of truth, as we call it. You've heard.
Absolutely thrilled, isn't he? Because being the narcissist that he is, can you imagine? I mean, he would just have loved that. And, you know, there's one of the videos I've seen about this case, and that they actually interview the second guy, number two. And he was saying how weird the guy was in the dressing room. And he was really hurt when she chose number one. Because, you know, but of course she didn't. She hadn't seen him, don't forget. But he still sounded weird, didn't he? I mean, he sounded weird.
Well, there they go. However, you did leave one remaining, and this is your date. And I want to tell you something about him, Cheryl.
he's a serial killer. No, obviously he didn't know that, but God, I wonder what he was thinking there. Was he thinking in his head, oh God, yeah, I can't wait to get you on your own?
He's a skydiver, so he's got a lot of nerve. He's into motorcycling. He's also a fine photographer. Say hello to Rodney Alcala. Rodney, come on and say hello. Congratulations, Rod. You did it with a one answer. Well, as far as I can see, Sharon.
Okay, so that was it. So he won, but she did not go on the date with him. She did not go on the date with him. Apparently, then backstage, she decided he was a bit creepy. Thank God for that, because she would have just ended up one of his victims, wouldn't she? But apparently, she found him too creepy, and in the end, she refused to go on the date with him. He was fuming, apparently, which he would be, of course. So, I don't know. Unbelievable, isn't it, really? Anyway, never mind. So luckily for her, she didn't go on the date with him, but apparently he was absolutely fuming after that. So quite often, I know that happened with Ted Bundy when he kidnapped Carol Durant and then she got away. He then was so angry, you know, sometimes they get so angry and unfortunately then they just go off for somebody else to do it to. So, you know, she had a lucky escape, but I'm sure somebody else suffered for her rejection of him. Not that I'm saying that's her fault. It's not her fault, but yeah. So that was her and her lucky escape. So after that, yeah, he wouldn't have taken that very well. Being a psychopath, being a narcissist. So, you know, he just wouldn't have taken that very well. I'm sure it made him even more angry. He killed 3 women after that appearance. So it probably that rejection was a factor. And unfortunately, one of the poor women that, or girls, because this was a little girl called Robin Samso. She was a 12-year-old girl from Huntington Beach, and she disappeared as she rode a bike home she rode from her home to a ballet class and disappeared. And her body was found 12 days later in the foothills of Los Angeles, and she had been RAPD and stabbed. And one of her friends said that a stranger had approached them asking to take their photos. And when they circulated a sketch of the photographer, his parole officer recognized him. So this is how he got caught. Robin Samso, let's get a picture of her up. I've got a picture up here somewhere. From the e-fit that her friend made, Rodney's parole officer recognised him, and that was the end of his killing spree. So this is Robin here, Robin Samso, the blonde girl, 12 years old. You know, very, very sad. But I mean, she wasn't his only victim. These are his known victims here. I'm going to name them all in a minute because I like to go through, you know, I like to mention their names. So these are his known victims. Robin here, she was the last one. So let me tell you about his victims, just because we should talk about them, shouldn't we? So it started off with the 5 that he was, including Robin, that he was convicted for. And you can see them here. You've got Georgia Wickstead, who was murdered in 1977. Charlotte Lamb, who was murdered in 1978. Jill Parenteau, who was murdered in 1979, Jill Barkham, who was murdered in 1977, and little Robin Samso, who was murdered in 1979. So here they are. Jill Barkham. I'm not going to go into the detail, I just want to show you the photos. Georgia Wickstead, Charlotte Lamb, Jill Parenteau, and Robin. Now, this is Marion Connolly, Robin Samso's mum. And that's why I want to talk about her, because Robin's mum had to go through 3 trials, because twice his conviction for Robin's murder was overturned for, various reasons, where it's like, that's why I could never be a defense lawyer. How could you sleep at night? This guy's a serial killer. Anyway, his conviction was overturned twice. And then on one of the occasions that he was retried, he decided to defend himself. Now, this is something you seem to be able to do in America. I don't know if you can do that in the UK. Certainly hope not, because it's foul. Because poor Robin's mum had to actually sort of sit there and be questioned by him, be cross-examined by him, be close to him. How she didn't take a gun in there herself and kill him. I wonder if I can find some footage of the trial. Because, it was just awful. And he acted so strangely, and just the thought, just awful that his mother had, her mother had to put up with that. Anyway, I can't seem to find a video. I should have got one ready, but I didn't. So anyway, I'll go back to the pictures of him, because there'll be some pictures there. So just let me close some windows down. Okay, so yeah, this was him. This is what he looked like as he was conducting these trials. So the mother's got to be questioned by this horrible man, knowing what he's done to her daughter, because she's had to sit through all the details twice already in 2 trials, and now she's got to sit through him questioning her, cross-examining her. It's disgusting, it is. It's disgusting that she had to go through that, bless her. Yeah, this was him as he was being his own defense attorney. Anyway, the good news is he failed completely, so the convictions were upheld or reinstated, or whichever way you want to say it. So, gosh. So when he went on trial, he was. So how they found him was when they circulated the sketch of the friend had made, Robin's friend had made. His parole officer identified him, and so they went and arrested him, and they searched his mother's house in Monterey Park. And when they were searching his mother's house, they found a receipt for a storage locker in Seattle, and in that locker they found Robin Samso's earrings. They found lots of different earrings and things. So he had taken trophies from all his victims, and Robin Samso's mum identified these earrings. And when he was being retried and he was being his own defense lawyer, he said those earrings were his. He said those earrings were his, and that Robin's mum could not prove that they were Robin's earrings. Oh, it was disgusting. Anyway, he was convicted and he was given the death sentence. He was sentenced to death in June, I think the following year, in 1980. So it was over. This verdict was overturned in 1984 because the jurors had been informed of his prior sex crimes. So 1986, another trial. He was again sentenced to death. And then again, that was overturned. But then in 2003, the death sentence was confirmed again. Then DNA was coming into play, wasn't it? So they learned that Alcala's DNA matched DNA left at 2 other murder scenes in Los Angeles, and also another cold case DNA match in 2004. So that led to his indictment for the murders of 4 additional women, which were the ones we looked at. Jill Barkham, who was 18. She was originally thought to be a victim of the Hillside Strangler. Georgia Wickstead was 27. She was killed in her home in 1977. Charlotte Lamb was killed in the laundry room of her apartment complex. She was 31, and Jill Parenteau was 21, and she was killed in her apartment. They were all posed as well. So, that's a sign of a serial killer, isn't it? And then another pair of earrings that were found in his storage locker had residue on them that matched Lamb's DNA. So anyway, he published a book. What he did to Robin's mother, I think, was like a torture. He thrived off it, making her sit through it all again, questioning her. He used her as a way of fulfilling, because he couldn't be out there free to fulfill his fantasies, etc. He used Robin's mother as a way of getting his gratification for the torture that he put her through. I've seen many interviews with her. It's very, very sad, because you saw how she changed from the young woman that she was, because she was just a young woman herself, really, when Robin died. Robin was only 12. I mean, she had other siblings, thankfully, so her mum had some, other children to cling on to. But seeing her deteriorate, it was very, very sad. Her life was ruined when Robin was taken off this earth. Oh, and he did some really weird things in the trial, etc. He played some weird songs, and it was just awful. He should never have been allowed to have done that. He should never have been allowed to have done that. Anyway, later on then, for DNA matches while he was in prison, in 2011, he was announced that the investigators announced that he was responsible for the death of Pamela Lamson, who was 19 years old, who had disappeared after making a trip to go and visit someone who said he wanted to photograph her. Anyway, the police claimed there was sufficient evidence to convince them that he committed the crime. There was Christine Thornton. He was charged with her death in 2016. She was 28, and she was last seen hitchhiking and was never heard of again. So he did admit to 2 other cases, I think. Anyway, there's been lots of cold cases there. It's been announced, that they think he had something to do with it. Now, I'm going to come back to you now. Just make sure you're all okay. I hope you are. You're all okay there. Hi, Jean. Jean's just arrived. Hi, Tracy Maron. Have I missed anybody else coming in? Hopefully not. Said hello to Saskia. So yes, I know keeping trophies is pretty horrible, isn't it? So okay, I can't go up, and if I've missed anyone, I'm sorry while I was doing that. But anyway, Jean, Jean's always late. I'm just going to turn my fans off because it's cooling down a little bit. I know, and you know, it's funny when they keep trophies. I'm good, thank you, Tracy. It's weird when they keep trophies and then they keep them in like somewhere nowhere near them because they're terrified of somebody finding them. But so they can't look at them or whatever. But I suppose I expect he would go and visit his trophies every now and again, go and just have a look at them and relive his experiences. Anyway, so he was on death row. He was on death row. Unfortunately, you know what it's like on death row. It takes so long, doesn't it, for these sentences? He was never actually executed. He died. Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Jackie. He died naturally. He died of natural causes. And what is quite sad, I think, is Robin's mother, who had, you know, campaigned so hard and had to sit through those 3 trials. She actually died before him, which I found that very sad because it would have been nice is not the right word, but it would have been better for her, you know, if he would have died first. I expect that was all she was waiting for, was all she wanted was to see the back of him. That's what the son said as well. He said, you know, we just can't wait for I'm just trying to find out exactly when she died. Let's see. I thought I had the date. Yeah, so he did commit other offences. He died of what they're referring to as unspecified natural causes, which I'm not sure what that means. But he was 77. He lived till he was 77, and he died of natural causes at 1:43 a.m. on July the 24th, 2021, at a hospital in Kings County. I'm just wondering why he got mosquitoes. I wonder if they removed the death penalty. What? No, he was on, there he is. He was on death row for the rest of his life. Currently 700 people are on California's death row. Yeah, so one of the girls or women that he killed in 2016, Christine Ruth Thornton, she disappeared in 1978. Her body was found in 1982, and she was 6 months pregnant. Also, he was finally convicted for the murder of Ellen Hover, who was the goddaughter of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. So he actually pled guilty to that. So there you go. So these people, I mean, it doesn't bring obviously your loved one back, but it must feel better knowing that someone's been held to account, you know, that you find out what happened to them. But a horrible man. Anyway, so he'll be accounting now for whatever, you know, he'll be in the next world. And Robin, of course, and her mother, Marianne. I'm a bit annoyed that I can't find out when. Let me just, I'll leave you with that picture. So yeah, he lived to 77. He didn't do bad, did he? They look after him too well, don't they? They all seem to live a long time, these people that are in prison. You know, they get looked after, don't they? They've got a doctor on tap. Gosh. Now, so what I want to talk about now is, well, we probably were, I mean, it's still active, this case. The police are still looking for more victims because they found hundreds and hundreds of photographs of not only young women but boys as well, that he'd taken, and lots of them were explicit in an sex way. So at some point they released these pictures to the public in the hope, that people would recognize them and that they'd be able to solve some cold cases. Oh, here, I'll just show you some pictures of. This is Robin's mother. I always, because I've watched so many interviews with her over the years and watched her deteriorate, bless her. I just, he just ruined her life completely. And then he enjoyed it. He enjoyed doing it. Not only taking her daughter away. What a horrible, horrible man. He's like the worst of the worst, this man. He showed absolutely no remorse ever. He was not sorry. He was not sorry. In fact, he delighted in torturing this woman. That was the only pleasure that he could get after he was arrested. So he took that pleasure, and what he did to that mother anyway. Well, hopefully he's sort of burning in hell now. So these pictures that they found, it's very worrying because let me just close down some windows. So I'm just left with the ones. The police finally, and I don't know what I've done with it because I did have a list of them, but anyway. So the police finally released about 100 of these pictures. There were so many pictures that they couldn't, they couldn't release because they were too explicit. And they have found 20 people that were on these photos. Bear in mind, originally there was a lot more that they can't even show. I think they solved one murder through these photos, and other people were women who came forward and said, yes, that was me. He approached me, asked to take photos. Most of the time they actually did have some sort of, fling with him or whatever. So I just want to find the photos again. They're chilling, I think, because we don't know what's happened to these people. What am I doing? Anyway, just chat between yourselves a minute. Yeah, so these were photos that were found in this storage locker where they found the earrings, etc. These are also the photos that they found that he'd taken. Now, have we got? Oh gosh, I can't just hang on. I want a list of them. Maybe this is it. Right, so it's chilling because I just warn you now, I'll give you a little trigger warning because there are children on these photos. But there's no, not necessarily that he's murdered these children, but he has taken photos of children. So all these photos were found in his storage locker. Most are young women, but there are children. And these photos that have been released, these are the only ones that are fit to look at, you know, because the others are too explicit, so the police will not show them. So I'm just going to go down them. All these photos were found in his locker. So you can see some of them are outside. He's probably stopped girls on the street and said, oh, I'm a photographer. You know, they've had a camera around his neck. I'm a photographer for Hollywood photographers. Don't forget, this was in Hollywood, probably a lot of it. And, you know, you've got the right look for a film that's coming out or whatever. You know, that's what he'll have done. So these women, all these women, and there will be some children on this, have not been identified yet. But, you know, this album is available. The FBI have put it out. And so you just, gosh, I hope these women are all okay. See, there's two there, so he's managed to talk two of them into going home with him. So he hung around the beach. He hung around any place where he would see young girls. Gosh, and it really brings it home to you when you go down like this, scroll down, just how many there are. So the thing is, none of these women have been identified. So are they even alive, or were they victims? We don't know. I think some of them that are in like a compromising position, like this girl, she's obviously not got much on. I don't hold out a lot of hope for her, but you never know. He didn't kill everybody that he had a relationship with. Well, say a relationship, he didn't have a relationship with anybody, but he didn't kill everybody that he had a fling with, if you like. Well, as far as we know. I don't know if they've ever spoke to any of his ex-girlfriends or anything like that. Yeah. God, this one, I think I've got to just go past that. So you think that anybody who had a missing relative, you know, surely they must have heard of him at the time, because, you know, he was so, you know, it will have been all over the news and everything that there was this. Gosh, God, there's just loads of them. Yeah, so boys too. God, what a shit. What an absolute shit. Dear me. I think I might have to stop in a minute because she looks very young, doesn't she? Yeah, so you just got to hope that these girls, they let him take photos of him, but they didn't actually go back with him. But you can see that some of them, they are in his flat or in a private place with him. Oh, dear me. So let's hope this guy is completely rotten in hell. Oh, I've got to see, he's taken that photo. I mean, now, well, the problem is now that people take photos on their phones, don't they? He's taken that photo of that man and his children in the shower at the beach. what's he taking it surreptitious? I mean, you'd go mad, wouldn't you? Could you imagine, David, if you were with your grandchildren and some guy with freaky hair like that is taking photos of you? You go mad. Boys again. So boys, girls, children, he didn't care. The only ones that aren't on here are men, because men wouldn't have, you know, they would have put up too much of a fight probably, so he'd be scared of men. Gosh. That's just a young boy. That, oh, dear me. Okay, I think we'll stop now. So you can look at the photos online. It's very distressing, isn't it? Actually, very, very distressing. Yeah. Monster, yeah, that's why she called him a monster. The mother, Robin's mother, called him a monster. He was a monster. Now, I hope that, you know, I hope he's passed on from this world. Robin, of course, passed on from this world when he took her from this world. And now Robin's mum has passed from this world. I hope she gets some sort of vengeance in the next world, because she didn't get the proper justice. I mean, he was not ever released after killing Robin, but, you know, she had to sit through those 3 trials, and him, yeah, you know, I hope he is rotting in hell. Yeah. Yes, the Jimmy Savile story starting tomorrow, isn't it? Steve Coogan, isn't it? You know, that it'll be a good series, but it's ironic, really, isn't it? The BBC making a series when they allowed it all to go on. Yeah, no, he had no preference, Jackie. That's been quite sad, that, hasn't it, tonight? I need to cheer us up. How can I cheer? Riley. Riley's flat out on the floor. He's just half asleep. He's like, what? I know what will cheer you up. I saw a nice little video on Facebook that I shared. So I'm going to share that because it will make you smile. Hang on. You'll see this little kangaroo, totally changing the subject now. We're going to talk about kangaroos. I love this. It reminds me of my little dog, Rocky. Here you go. This will cheer you up. I want one. I want a kangaroo. He looks like my little dog, Rocky. I think my dog, Rocky's got some kangaroo in him. Let's have a look again. Oh. He said, I want to get back in the pouch. I want to get back in the pouch. Oh. Lovely. There you go. That cheered me up now. That's cheered me up. It's made me smile because that, isn't it lovely? Isn't it lovely? So cute. So cute. Bless. Yeah, we needed something to cheer us up. That's a really depressing story of monster, bloody Alcala. But anyway, he never got out of prison, so he was in prison for a long, long time. So he would have got, was it in the early 80s that he was sentenced? So he spent 40 years in prison. So yeah, so cute. think I can watch the BBC. Oh no, I have got BBC. I have got BBC. I must try and remember that tomorrow because I never watch the TV. I do have it, but oh, Saskia, he will. He'll definitely be paying for what he did. I do believe that. Okay, so I've cheered you up now with the kangaroo after Serial Killer Sunday. Yeah, he's, to me, you know, because I have got an interest in true crime, so I know a lot about a lot of different serial killers, unfortunately. But he does, you know, mainly I can report on the story or watch the video of them, and I can just think, oh, good, you know, that they've been caught or whatever. He's one of the ones that distresses me the most. I think it's just his complete lack of empathy and the way he tortured Robin's mother, you know, it just seems worse than, you know, and he never ever showed any remorse whatsoever, and he had no normal relationships either, you know, like some of you might think, well, they've you see that they've been married or they've got children or whatever, and you can see there is a human side to them. But with him, there is no human side. He just kept running back to his mum. You know, she probably thought he was perfect, but anyway. Okay, that's it. So thank you for being here with me. I've got lots of videos going out this week. Nicola's birthday, Nicola Bully's birthday on the 12th. I've got some for the members live on the 12th. I've got some photos to show you of how somebody else celebrated Nicola's birthday this year. I've got some photos which I think you'll find interesting. But we'll be lighting a candle at some point on Thursday. So try and get a candle in if you remember it. Okay, night all, and I will see you very soon. Remember to live and love very carefully. Don't let anyone take your photo. If someone comes over and says, oh, you're just what I've been looking for, don't let them take your photo. And remember to look after you, because you need to look after you first, because you are the most important person. And for any of you who are going through any difficult times, all my love, all my prayers. And I'll see you again really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God always go with you. Night, night. Night, Heather. Night, Desi. Night, Tina. Night, David. Night, Jackie. I can't go through the night, then I'll definitely miss someone. But night, night all.